The church bells had barely stopped echoing when I found myself alone in the bridal suite, my hands trembling so violently I thought I might drop the bouquet. The satin of my white gown felt heavy against my skin, but it wasn't the dress that weighed me down. It was the anticipation. Hours of smiles, handshakes, and photographs had led to this very moment. I told myself to breathe. One last breath before my husband lifted my veil. "Nate," I called softly, my voice trembling. He was standing by the window, back to me. I could see the faint outline of his tall frame, confident and composed, and yet somehow distant, untouchable. "Isabella," he said finally, not turning, "it's time." I swallowed hard, forcing a smile. My heart thudded in my chest. Slowly, I reached up, hands shaking, and held the edges of the veil. My fingers grazed the delicate lace, and for a fleeting moment, I imagined him looking at me with the tenderness I had dreamed of for months. Then he turned. I froze. His gaze didn't meet mine with warmth. It was sharp, calculating, judgmental. He frowned. "Is this your face?" His words were barely a whisper, but they cut deeper than any scream could. I blinked, confused. "Yes, it's me." His lips curled in a way that made my stomach twist. I can't." "What do you mean?" My voice rose slightly, panic threading through the edges. "I'm your wife, Nathaniel." "No," he said, shaking his head. This isn't what I expected. I can't. I'm sorry, Isabella. This doesn't work." My fingers trembled on the veil. "What are you saying?" He stepped closer, but his eyes didn't soften. "I'm saying I can't marry you. I can't. Your skin," his voice faltered. "It's too dark." I blinked, thinking I misheard. "Too dark? Nathaniel, what are you saying? You promised me." "You promised. I'm saying I can't pretend anymore. I'm not attracted to you. I don't want to be married to you. I should have stopped this before, but..." His voice trailed off. My knees weakened. I sank onto the bed, my hands gripping the sheets. "You can't be serious. This morning." He said I am. Cold and unyielding. "I can't. And if you don't leave quietly, I'll file for a divorce tomorrow. I promise." No," I whispered, my chest tightening. "No, you can't do this. Not like this. Please." I stumbled forward, catching his hands. "Please, Nate. I'll do anything. I'll change. I'll..." "Stop." His voice thundered now, sharp and final. "You don't understand. You can't change what I see. I'm done." Tears blurred my vision. I gripped his feet, my nails digging into his shoes. I'll stay no matter what. You don't have to divorce me. I'll be whatever you want me to be." He tried to step back, but I held on, desperate. "Please, just one chance, one night, one chance. I'll be the wife you want me to be." His jaw tightened, and he pulled away slowly. "You don't understand, Isabella. I'm serious. The words cut through me sharper than a knife. My chest ached as I watched him walk toward the door, leaving me alone in the room, alone with my shame and disbelief. The veil still covered half my face, but now it felt like a mask hiding the humiliation. I sank to the floor, curling into myself, clutching the delicate lace as if it could shield me from the cold reality. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. Hours of dreaming, months of planning, years of hope all crumbled in an instant. I whispered to the empty room, "God, please make it stop, please." Outside, I could hear his footsteps recede, the faint clink of his watch as he moved across the polished floor. I stayed there, curled on the carpet as the quiet swallowed me. I could no longer hear the celebration, the laughter, or the music from the church. It was gone, replaced by a deafening silence. The silence of a man who didn't want me, and a life that suddenly felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I closed my eyes and tried to hold on to something, anything, but all I could feel was the emptiness where love should have been.
The morning after the wedding, Nate didn't even look at me. I stayed in the bedroom, listening to the clatter of dishes and voices downstairs. Evelyn, his mother, was already awake, moving around the kitchen like she owned the entire house, which technically she did. I hesitated at the doorway, clutching my robe, afraid of what I might hear. "Good morning, Isabella," she said, without looking at me. "Sleep well?" "Yes, thank you," I replied softly, trying to sound calm. Evelyn's sharp eyes finally met mine. I suppose. Though I must admit, your skin, so dark, it does stand out. In photos, it will be noticeable. I froze. "Excuse me?" She tapped her chin, smiling thinly. "Oh, nothing personal, dear. I'm just saying a lighter complexion would have suited Nathaniel better. More harmonious. You understand, right?" My throat tightened. I'll try to. I'll do my best." Nate appeared behind her, brushing his hair with that perfect composure I used to admire. He didn't smile. He didn't touch me. "Mom, stop," he said quietly. "Stop? Stop what? I'm just commenting on reality," Evelyn said, still calm, still sharp. Nate sighed. "She's my wife, Mom. You can't keep criticizing her." I felt a spark of hope, but it died when I looked at him. There was no warmth in his eyes, just a faint trace of annoyance. "You'll forgive me, Nathaniel, but I have standards to maintain. I only hope Isabella can rise to them. Otherwise—" I swallowed hard, gripping the counter. "Otherwise what?" "Otherwise," she said slowly, "this will be very difficult for all of us." I nodded mutely, trying not to cry in front of them. Later, at breakfast, the tension grew unbearable. Nate barely touched his coffee, scrolling through his phone, while Evelyn kept commenting on everything I did. How I poured milk into my cereal, how I buttered the toast, even how I held the spoon. "I suppose it's passable," she said finally, after 15 minutes of criticism. "Though really, Nathaniel deserves someone more photogenic, someone lighter, more delicate." I felt like my chest had been crushed. I'm doing my best," I whispered. "You will have to do more than your best," she said, her voice smooth, almost rehearsed. Nate looked up briefly. "Mom, stop. Enough," he muttered. But he didn't stand up for me, didn't meet my eyes, didn't say anything to make me feel safe. Later, I retreated to the guest room upstairs. I tried calling Sarah, my best friend, but my hand shook so badly I almost dropped my phone. Finally, I managed to press the buttons. "Isabella, are you okay?" Sarah asked, her voice warm, concerned. I don't know," I whispered, tears rolling down my cheeks. I feel like I don't belong anywhere. Not here, not anywhere. Nate, his mother, it's like they never wanted me. Oh, Bella, listen to me.
God never created a mistake. Your worth isn't determined by how anyone sees you. Not Nate, not his mother, not anyone. I closed my eyes, trying to take in her words, but they felt small, fragile. I just I just wanted to be loved. Is that too much? No, Sarah said firmly. It's never too much. You deserve love, and one day you will find it, or they will realize what they lost. But right now, you need to hold on to yourself, not them. I nodded slowly, though her words felt like a distant dream. I hung up and stared out the window, watching the morning light filter through the curtains. The house felt bigger, colder, emptier than I ever imagined. My heart ached for the home I thought I had married into, but it was gone, replaced by a place that rejected me, a family that looked through me, a husband who barely saw me. For the first time, I realized the reality of my life. This house was never mine. And maybe, just maybe, I had to find a way to survive it without losing myself completely. I tried to convince myself that the nightmare of yesterday would end with breakfast, but it didn't. As I unpacked my things in the guest room, my phone buzzed. A text from Nate. I hesitated, hand shaking, before opening it. Claire stopped by church today. Don't worry. My stomach churned. Claire, his ex, the woman I had heard about but never thought I'd meet face to face again. My chest tightened, and I felt the room spin. Later that evening, Nate came home looking different. His usual calm composure was replaced by a restless energy. "She's here," he muttered, as if stating a fact. "Who?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Claire," he said, almost bitterly. "My ex. Don't worry about it. She's harmless." "Harmless?" I repeated, my hands curling into fists. "She's your ex. How can she be harmless?" He avoided my gaze. "We're adults. It's nothing. Really." But nothing felt further from the truth. Later at church, I saw her, Claire Hart, blonde, smiling, flawless in her pastel dress. She walked past me with a rehearsed friendliness that made my stomach churn. "Oh, you must be Isabella," she said, voice sweet like sugar, but her eyes were cold, sharp. "Nathaniel talks about you sometimes." I nodded politely, though my jaw clenched. "Yes, it's nice to meet you." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Of course, of course. You know, Nathaniel always had a type. Light, delicate, easy on the eyes. Don't take it personally." I froze, my fingers gripping my hymnal so tightly I feared it would tear. "Excuse me?" "Oh, don't be offended," she said, her tone honeyed but venomous. "I'm just stating what he likes. You understand, right? I mean, you try so hard. Bless your heart." My chest burned. I wanted to run, scream, cry, do anything, but I forced myself to breathe. Nate was standing beside her, silent, not a single word to defend me. "Claire," I began, voice shaking, but he cut me off. "Isabella, don't. Please, stop." I ignored him. "How can you say these things in front of me?" Claire laughed lightly, the sound cutting through my skin. "Oh, honey, I don't say anything she hasn't already heard. Nathaniel, he has standards. Always has." I felt the tears rise. "Standards? You mean my skin? My face? My very existence?"
She tilted her head, pretending sympathy. "Oh, darling, don't cry. It's not your fault you're, well, different. You'll learn." I wanted to speak, but my voice failed. Nate's hand brushed my arm, cold, distant. "Isabella, please." I pulled away. "No, Nathaniel, please, don't touch me. I can't. Not like this." Later, I sat in my car outside the church, clutching my purse. My chest felt hollow, my mind spinning. I had dreamed of a husband who would love me, who would protect me, who would see me for who I am, not for the color of my skin. Instead, I had Claire's cold smile, Nathaniel's indifference, and Evelyn's judgment rolling in my head like a storm. I pressed my forehead to the steering wheel and sobbed. "I'm invisible," I whispered, voice breaking. "I'm nothing to them, nothing." My phone buzzed again. Sarah. "Bella, are you okay?" she asked. I shook my head, tears blurring my vision. I don't think I can do this. I'm married, but it's like I'm not even here. Nate doesn't see me. They don't see me." "Bella," Sarah said softly, "they don't define you. Your worth isn't in their eyes. Not Nate, not his ex, not his mother. It's in yours. And God sees you. Always." I closed my eyes and tried to believe her, tried to feel the weight of her words. But the hollow ache inside me only deepened. My nightmare wasn't over. It was only beginning.
The days blurred into each other, each one heavier than the last. Evelyn's judgment never paused, Nate's indifference never wavered, and Claire's smirks haunted every corner of our lives. I couldn't remember the last time I had felt safe, or even noticed the color of the sky without it reminding me of how invisible I had become. One morning, Evelyn cornered me in the kitchen. "Isabella," she said, voice calm but sharp, "you really should consider changing your wardrobe. It doesn't flatter you. Nate deserves someone brighter." I clenched my fists under the counter. I'm trying my best." "Trying your best isn't enough," she said, eyes narrowing. "He deserves perfection." I felt the heat rise to my cheeks. Perfection? Do you think I'm supposed to be perfect? Do you think I'm supposed to erase who I am just to make him happy? Nate appeared behind her, expression unreadable. "Ma'am, stop." "No, Nathaniel," Evelyn said, waving him off. "She needs guidance. She needs to understand her place." My chest tightened. "Place? You mean the place where I'm constantly reminded I don't belong?" Evelyn's lips pressed into a thin line. "You have potential. If only you were—" She didn't finish. The words were sharp enough to pierce my soul. I turned and ran, nearly knocking over the vase by the stairs. My hands shook so violently I could barely open the door. Outside, the morning air hit me, but it didn't bring relief, just a sharp reminder that even in the fresh air, I was trapped in their judgment. Later in the living room, Nate dropped a pile of papers onto the coffee table. "Isabella," he said flatly, "you're impossible. You make everything so complicated. I didn't sign up for this." I froze. "Complicated? I'm your wife.
"You don't get it," he snapped. "I didn't marry you because I wanted to. I married you because of family pressure. And now I regret it." The words shattered me like glass. I fell into the couch, clutching my knees. "Regret it? You married me and you regret it? After everything? After the vows, the promises?" He ignored me. You'll never change, Isabella. You'll never be what I wanted. I felt something inside me snap. Months of humiliation, rejection, and quiet suffering boiled over. You think I'm nothing? That I don't deserve love? That I'm worthless? I screamed, my voice echoing in the empty house. Do you even hear yourself? Nate opened his mouth, but no words came. He looked shocked, unprepared for the storm I'd finally become. I pressed my hands to my face, sobbing uncontrollably. I've tried to please you, to be the wife you wanted, but no matter what I do, it's never enough. Never. He finally spoke, softer now, almost a whisper. Isabella, please, calm down. I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. Calm down? After months of being treated like I'm invisible? After your mother mocks me, your ex tries to steal you back, and you act like none of this matters? He turned away, silence stretching between us. I grabbed my coat and ran to the car. My chest ached, my lungs burned, but I couldn't stop. I called Daniel as soon as I started the engine. Daniel, I can't do this anymore. I can't. Shh. It's okay, Bella, he said calmly. I'm coming. I'll be there soon. Just hold on. You're not alone. I slumped in the seat, tears streaming freely. For the first time, I realized something terrifying and liberating. I didn't need to beg for love anymore. I didn't need their approval. I was broken, yes, but I wasn't defeated. Not yet. That night, Daniel arrived and held me while I cried like I hadn't in years. His arms were the first safety I'd felt in months, the first warmth that didn't judge, didn't demand, didn't humiliate. And in that embrace, I made a silent vow. I wouldn't stay broken. I wouldn't let them destroy me. I would survive. Somehow. I woke the next morning in Daniel's spare room, the sunlight streaming through the curtains, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a small, fragile sense of calm. It didn't erase the pain, the humiliation, or Nate's words. They were still there, sharp as knives, but at least I wasn't alone. Daniel handed me a cup of tea. You need to start thinking about yourself, Bella, he said gently. Not them, not him, you. I nodded, tears brimming. I don't know if I can. I feel so worthless. You're not worthless. You're human, beautiful in your own way, and you deserve to see that for yourself, not through their eyes, he said firmly. Later, I called Pastor Michael. I'd been avoiding him, afraid that talking would make everything real, but Daniel insisted. Bella, I'm glad you called, he said warmly. You've been carrying too much pain alone. Let's talk about it. For the first time, I let myself speak freely, spilling every insult, every sting from Evelyn, every cold glance from Nate, every cruel smile from Claire. Pastor Michael listened without interruption. Isabella, he said finally, God never makes mistakes. You are perfect as you are. Your worth is not in someone else's approval, not in Nate's, not in anyone's. You must see yourself the way God sees you, strong, valuable, deserving of love and respect. I wanted to cry, but the tears felt different. Not the helpless, trembling tears of before. They were steadier, more determined. The next day, I met Rebecca Collins at the office, my new mentor. She was confident,
warm, and completely unapologetic about living her own life. "Bella," she said, "you can't let anyone define who you are. You've got potential. Don't waste your energy on people who don't appreciate it. Focus on yourself." I nodded slowly. I I think I've been wasting too much energy on them, on being enough for people who never wanted me. Rebecca smiled. Exactly. Start small, stand tall, speak up, make choices for yourself. That's where freedom begins. I began to notice small changes over the next few days. I dressed for myself, not for Nate or his mother. I walked through the streets without shrinking into the shadows. And for the first time, I spoke to coworkers without apologizing for existing. Each small step felt like lifting a weight from my chest. That evening, Daniel and I sat on the porch, sipping tea and listening to the night birds. "You're starting to find your own strength, Bella," he said quietly. "I see it. You're not the same girl they tried to break." I, I'm trying," I admitted. "It's terrifying, but for the first time, I feel like maybe I can be someone outside of their expectations. Someone who isn't just Nate's wife, Evelyn's project, or Claire's competition. Someone who's me." Daniel reached out and held my hand. "You are you, Bella. That's enough." I leaned back against the chair, staring at the stars. For the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was the start of something new, not just surviving, but truly living. Not for Nate, not for Evelyn, not even for Claire. For me. And in that quiet moment, I whispered a prayer. "God, help me find the courage to love myself. Help me stand tall, even if they never see me. I want to be free, even if it's terrifying." For the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of strength. Small, fragile, but real. And that glimmer grew with every breath, every step, and every quiet act of defiance. I wasn't broken. Not completely. I hadn't expected it to feel satisfying when I noticed Nate's perfect mask beginning to crack. But it did. It started with small things. Late nights at work, his phone buzzing constantly, Claire's name flashing across the screen more often than it should. I watched quietly, learning not to react, not to beg, not to break myself in front of him. One evening, I saw him pacing in the living room, muttering under his breath, I can't fix this." I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "Can't fix what, Nate?" He froze, then turned, trying to regain composure. "Nothing, Isabella, just work stress." I tilted my head. "Right, the kind of stress that makes you hide your phone from your wife and smile at your ex in church?" He flinched, but didn't respond. That was when I realized silence was my new weapon. Observing, waiting, and not giving him the satisfaction of panic or tears. Later, Lucas, Nate's cousin, stopped by unexpectedly. He pulled me aside into the kitchen. "I know what's going on," he said quietly. "Nate is not being honest with anyone, not even his mother. He planned all of this months before the wedding. You need to be careful." I felt my chest tighten. "Months before? You mean this whole marriage?" Lucas nodded. "Yes, he was gonna leave you eventually, for Claire. I'm not saying it to hurt you. I'm saying it so you can protect yourself."
I sank onto a chair, gripping the counter. I feel betrayed, violated, like everything I believed was a lie. Exactly, Lucas said softly. But you don't have to react the way he expects. Watch, observe, wait. He's cracking. You'll see. That evening, Nate came home looking different. His smile was forced, eyes darting, tense. He kept checking his phone, frowning at messages and pacing the living room. "You okay?" I asked casually, pretending not to notice. "I'm fine," he said quickly, almost too quickly. I poured myself a glass of water, and when he glanced at me, I added, "You seem stressed. Work? Claire? Is it hard pretending everything's perfect?" His eyes widened, and he stepped back. It's none of your business." "Of course it's my business," I said softly, leaning against the counter. "We're married, remember? Or did you forget that too?" He looked away, muttering under his breath, I can't." I didn't push further. I smiled faintly and walked out of the room. The cracks were there. The control he had over me, the power to hurt me at will, was slipping, if only slightly. Later, when I called Sarah, I couldn't help but smile a little. I think I'm starting to see it," I said. "See what?" she asked. "His mask, the perfect husband, the charming man, it's falling. And I don't have to cry anymore. I don't have to beg. I can just be me." Her voice was soft and proud. "Exactly, Bella. Keep standing tall. Let him see who you are without bending or shrinking. That's where your power lies." I hung up, sitting by the window, watching the night descend over the city. For the first time, I felt the thrill of quiet control. Not over him, not yet, but over myself. He could rage, he could scheme, he could pretend, but I was no longer broken. I whispered to myself, almost smiling, "You can't hurt me anymore, Nate. Not the way you used to." The cracks were small, but they were there, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. Hope that someday I wouldn't just survive this marriage, I would rise above it. I never expected Lucas to knock on my door late that evening, but when he did, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. "Can I come in?" he asked softly. I nodded, motioning him into the small sitting room. He shut the door carefully behind him and took a deep breath. "I need to tell you the truth," Lucas said, voice low, urgent. "About Nate, about everything." I felt my stomach twist. "What do you mean?" He sat down across from me, leaning forward. "Nate never planned to stay married to you. From the start, this was all temporary. He wanted to leave you weeks after the wedding, go back to Claire and keep the family happy. Your marriage, it was never real in his eyes." I froze, gripping the edge of the chair. "Weeks after the wedding? What are you saying?" Lucas swallowed hard. "He was lying to everyone, to Evelyn, to the church, to you. He married you because it was convenient, because the family wanted him to. You were just a placeholder." I felt tears sting my eyes, hot and bitter. All this time, all these months, I believed in him. I trusted him. I loved him. Lucas reached out, but gently, resting a hand on mine. "I know.
And I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but now you know. You can decide what to do next. I shook my head, disbelief and rage churning inside me. I I can't believe it. How could he? How could he treat me like this? He's scared, Bella. He's scared you'll see through him, that you'll stop crying, stop begging, stop being the person he thinks he can control. I clenched my fists, while he's about to find out I'm not crying anymore. Later, when Nate came home, I didn't greet him with tears, didn't beg, didn't make excuses. I waited until he was calm, then said, softly but firmly, "Nate, we need to talk." He looked at me, puzzled. "What is it?" I took a deep breath. "I know the truth. Lucas told me everything. That you planned to leave me weeks after the wedding, to go back to Claire, to pretend this marriage was real." His face paled. "Bella, you don't understand." "No, I understand perfectly. I understand that you never loved me, that you married me because it was convenient, that your ex was always in your mind. I understand that your family pressured you and you didn't have the courage to tell me the truth. I understand it all, Nathaniel, and I am done begging." He stepped back, his mouth opening, closing, words failing him. I could see it, the panic, the realization that I wasn't broken anymore, that I wouldn't kneel for him. You can't leave me," he said, finally, almost pleading. I shook my head. "I'm not asking you to leave me. I'm asking you to see that your hold over me is gone. I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of Claire. I'm not afraid of your mother. I'm free." His eyes widened, shock written across his face. "Free?" "Yes," I said, voice firm. "Free from your lies. Free from the humiliation. Free from hoping for love where there was none. I will live my life on my own terms. You can either stay and accept me, or leave and face the consequences of your choices." He didn't know what to say. His perfect mask, the charming, untouchable man, had crumbled. I walked past him, feeling lighter than I had in months. My chest, still heavy with betrayal, now carried a strange sense of relief. I had discovered the truth, and in that discovery, I found my power. For the first time, I felt what it meant to stand tall, not for anyone else, but for me. The next morning, I packed my things. Every item in that house, the gowns, the makeup, even the little trinkets Nate had bought me, felt heavy, like reminders of a life that had never truly belonged to me. Daniel was there, helping me lift the heavier boxes into the car. "Are you sure about this?" he asked gently. "I have to be," I said, voice steady. "I can't stay in that house, in that marriage, under their judgment and cruelty. I have to find me." Daniel nodded, understanding. "You're doing the right thing, Billa. You're taking your life back." When Nate saw me gathering my things, he froze. His expression was a mix of shock, panic, and something else I couldn't name. "Isabella, what are you doing?" "I'm leaving," I said calmly, though my heart still thudded in my chest. "I can't live in this house anymore. I won't be treated like I don't matter. I won't pretend to be someone I'm not. You can't just leave. This marriage," he started, his voice rising, but I held up a hand. "No, Nate," I said firmly. "This marriage was never mine. Not really. You married me out of convenience, and now it's over. I am done begging for love I never had. I am done shrinking to fit your world. I am walking away." Nate opened his mouth again, but I didn't wait for him. I lifted the last box and walked past them, past the judgment and the lies, to the car waiting outside. Daniel helped me load it in,
and I climbed into the driver's seat. The engine roared to life, and for the first time in months, I felt free. Not entirely healed, not entirely safe from the memories, but free from their control. As we drove away, I looked back at the house, the walls that had felt like prison, the rooms filled with judgment, the people who had tried to break me. I whispered under my breath, "Goodbye, and may you realize too late what you lost." Daniel reached over and squeezed my hand. "You're stronger than you know, Bella. Stronger than anyone in that house ever gave you credit for." I nodded, tears slipping down my cheeks, not from fear, but from relief. I never thought I'd feel like this, like I could breathe without them pressing down on me. But I do, and it feels good. That night, I slept in my own apartment, the quiet, unfamiliar, but comforting. No one was judging me, mocking me, or reminding me I wasn't enough. For the first time, the reflection in the mirror felt like mine. Days passed. I focused on my work, my friends, and myself. I began to dress for me, laugh for me, live for me. Every small act, every decision was a reminder that I was no longer broken, no longer invisible, no longer controlled. And one evening, when Daniel came by with a cup of tea, I smiled at him with genuine warmth. "Thank you," I said quietly, "for everything, for helping me see that I'm worth more than their approval." He smiled back. "Bella, you always were. You just needed to see it for yourself." I looked out the window at the city lights, feeling the weight of months of pain lift, even if only a little. I was walking away from the past, yes, but I was also walking towards something else, toward hope, toward strength, toward myself. And for the first time in a long time, I believed I could survive and thrive without them. Weeks passed since I left the Williams house, and life had begun to taste sweet again. I focused on my career, my friendships, and myself. I was learning that surviving wasn't just about escaping. It was about reclaiming every part of me they had tried to crush. Then one afternoon, I received a message from Lucas. "You might want to see this. Nate called me." Panic in his voice. I frowned. Curiosity mingled with a strange satisfaction. I met him later at a quiet cafe, and he slid a file across the table. Photos, messages, even overheard conversations, all exposing Nate's schemes to manipulate his family and Claire's attempts to interfere in my life. "They're falling apart," Lucas said softly. "Evelyn is furious. She can't control him. Claire is furious. He's being ignored. Karma's catching up." I felt a small, almost imperceptible smile tug at my lips. "And I get to watch?" Lucas shook his head. "Not really watch, but you'll see it unfold. And you free from it. That's what matters." I nodded, feeling a warmth I hadn't known in months. Freedom didn't come from revenge. It came from walking away, from rising above. But witnessing their unraveling brought its own quiet satisfaction. A week later, I ran into Claire at a cafe near my office. She tried her usual smile, but it faltered when she saw me. "Isabella, hi!" I sat down opposite her, calmly sipping my coffee. "Claire, how's life treating you?" She hesitated. "It's fine. Busy." I raised an eyebrow.
Busy avoiding reality? Her eyes widened, guilt flashing for the first time. I I don't know what you mean. Oh, I think you do, I said softly. Nate's struggling. You wanted him back, didn't you? But he's not coming. You lost. And I'm still standing. Claire looked down, silent, and for the first time, I didn't feel the sting of her presence. I had survived her, and that survival felt sweeter than any confrontation could have. Later that evening, I spoke with Sarah. Bella, I heard about Nate. He's being called out at work, his reputation's falling apart, and Evelyn is furious. How does that feel? I smiled, a slow, real smile. I don't feel joy at their suffering, I admitted. I feel relief. The weight of fear and humiliation is gone. They're facing consequences, yes, but I'm free. That's the real victory. Over the next few days, the news trickled in. Nate's business deals were failing, Evelyn's social circle whispered behind her back, and Claire's attempts to manipulate anyone else were quietly thwarted. The house I had once called a prison became a symbol, not of their control, but of my liberation. I walked through my apartment one evening, turning off the lights, feeling the calm of my own space. I whispered softly to myself, karma isn't loud. It isn't vindictive. It's quiet, patient, and just. And it doesn't touch me. I was already free. Daniel came by smiling at me warmly. You've grown, Bella. Stronger, wiser, more alive. Nate, Evelyn, Claire, they're tangled in their own mistakes. But you walked away. That's your triumph. I nodded, thinking back to the months of tears, humiliation, and fear. How fragile I had felt, how dependent on their judgment I once was. And now, I was no longer that girl. Thank you, I whispered, for believing in me even when I didn't. He reached over, squeezing my hand. You always had the strength. You just had to see it for yourself. I smiled, finally letting the warmth fill me. My past would always be a part of me, but it no longer controlled me. Nate, Evelyn, Claire, they had their consequences, and I had my freedom. The scales had balanced, silently, perfectly, without me needing to lift a finger. And for the first time, I realized something profound. Freedom, self-worth, and peace, these were the sweetest forms of karma.
Months had passed since I left the Williams house. The memories of Nate, Evelyn, and Claire still lingered, sharp and bitter, but they no longer had the power to crush me. I had rebuilt my life piece by piece. Each small act of courage, each step of independence, adding to the strength I never realized I had. One morning, I stood in front of my mirror, dressed in a simple blouse and jeans, and studied my reflection. The girl staring back at me was different. Her eyes held fire, not fear. Her lips carried a faint, confident smile. I touched my face lightly and whispered, "You survived. You're still here. You're stronger than you ever imagined." Daniel entered, smiling warmly. "Bella, you look radiant. I mean it." I laughed softly. "It's not the outfit, it's the feeling inside. I feel whole. For the first time in months, maybe years." He nodded. "You've earned it. You walked away from pain, humiliation, and lies. And you didn't just survive, you grew." Later that day, I ran into Lucas again. "I heard Nate's dealing with some serious fallout," he said cautiously. "Is it satisfying?" I shook my head. "Not really. I don't want to rejoice in someone else's misery, but I do feel at peace. I'm not haunted by their approval anymore. That's enough for me. Lucas smiled. You've come a long way, Isabella. I'm proud of you. The real test came unexpectedly. I received a call from Evelyn. My heart tightened for a moment, the old fear trying to creep back. Isabella? Evelyn said, her voice softer than I remember. I wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I froze, unsure how to respond. Her apology didn't erase months of pain, but I realized something important. I didn't need it, not to move forward. I accept that you said it, I said quietly, but it doesn't change the past. It doesn't mean I will forget either. I'm focused on myself now. I'm building my life, my happiness. I hope you'll reflect on your choices too. There was a long pause, then a sigh. I will try. Take care, Isabella. I hung up and felt an odd sense of closure. Not vindictive, not triumphant, but calm, balanced, free.
Later, I sat at a cafe watching the city hum around me, thinking of how far I had come. Every insult, every judgment, every tear I had shed had led me here, not to bitterness, but to strength. My past no longer dictated my future. Daniel joined me, handing me a cup of tea. Bella, what's next? I smiled at him. Next, I live. I work. I love myself first. And when the time comes, I'll share my heart with someone who deserves it, not someone who treats me like a shadow. He grinned. Sounds like a plan. And I'll be here, cheering for every step you take. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the city in gold and pink, I realized the truth of what I had learned. The people who tried to break me, Nate, Evelyn, Claire, they had their own paths, their own consequences. But I didn't need to be part of their story anymore. I had my own story to write, and it was beautiful, messy, and entirely mine. That night, I walked home under the soft glow of streetlights, feeling the wind brush against my skin, feeling my heartbeat steady and strong. I whispered softly to myself, I survived. I'm alive. I'm free. The road ahead wasn't without challenges, but I was ready. I had been tested, betrayed, and humiliated, and I had risen from the ashes of it all. I was no longer the timid, uncertain girl who had entered that house months ago. I was Isabella, the woman who survived betrayal, walked away from pain, and discovered the power of her own worth. And in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty no one could take that away from me. Not Nate, not Evelyn, not Claire, not even the shadows of my past. I had reclaimed my life, my dignity, my heart. And this time, I would never let it go.